I think every founder has these crazy moments. Like, at Kiip, we had multiple near death and it can't even perform. And Siri, even today with Apple Intelligence, is still a trash product. So it's like, there's still ways to go.
Hello, everyone. On this episode of Emerging Founders with Manav, we have Brian Wong. Brian is the founder of Kiip, a mobile advertising platform that focuses on rewarding users during achievement moments in mobile apps. At the age of 18, Brian graduated from college and he skipped 4 grades. That means he went to college at the age of 14. Brian has attracted major clients like Kellogg, McDonald's, Coca-Cola while he was working at Kiip. And over the years, he also authored a book called The Cheat Code, where he revealed all these secrets in his book for other entrepreneurs. He's also had a venture called The Next Stage, where he teaches people about public speaking. And the reason I got Brian on the pod today, because I am really tunnel vision focused on mobile apps right now. And then when I was researching other entrepreneurs in mobile apps, I came across Brian and I was like, okay, I have to talk to Brian. So I'm really excited to have you on the pod, Brian. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Yeah, I kind of want to start from like the inception of Kiip. I know you started the company when you were like 18 or 19, but yeah, like what was the inception of the idea, and then what exactly was the thing that you built?
Yeah, I mean, Kiip was one of the types of companies you would think about now was not even a question mark on whether or not it should exist, which was this idea of rewarding people in mobile apps for interacting with brands, right? Today, the idea of being rewarded by a brand for watching a video, for interacting with an ad, for completing a task, for buying a product. I mean, rewards is so innate now in day-to-day interactions with brands. And mobile apps at the time when we started the company were just beginning to start getting traction. This was 2010. Tools would be built for a very wide ecosystem of apps in Android and iOS. We were the first to do that, obviously, in monetization beyond the basic tools like AdMob and other ad platforms that were just translating banner ads into mobile apps. And so, my whole thinking was as well, it was very linear thinking to move a banner to a smaller screen by making the banner smaller, right? But then when you think about new platforms, we believed that there was a way to evolve ads so that it wasn't just a linear thing. Like the obvious answer was make it smaller, but what if we could make it add another dimension, which was rewarding them? And so we ultimately came with this idea of rewarding people. So that idea of rewarding people in an ad kind of just blossomed into an entirely new category, and that's where Kiip came from. And that's how we started the company.
Cool. So I want to talk about a little bit about like how were you able to fundraise at that age, at the age of 19 or 20, like how were you able to fundraise for this app?
Yeah, I mean, the environment has changed a ton, right? So I'm sure your viewers and listeners will know that we've since sold the company. Is now owned by InMarket. I now have a VC fund of my own. The VC environment that we raised in 2010, very different. Right? You have, a few very well-known VCs like Kleiner Perkins, Sequoia, Index, Greylock, all in the Bay Area, in the South Bay, in Menlo Park, on Sand Hill Road. The lore of like the old school VC was very much so in play back in 2010 when we first started. So it was frankly a little easier, meaning you had only a few key people to talk to, and if you got in, you got in. And this was the big criticism of the early days of venture. That being, in my opinion, still technically early days, because people would argue the 90s were early days when like the microchip companies were being funded, but we're talking software and SaaS would be late 90s, mid 2000s, and then 2010 I would say is like the Web 2 of revolution and kind of the funding rounds. If you remember, all the main companies you use today every day were all funded around the 2010 mark. So think Airbnb, around that time, Uber, Pinterest, Spotify, all the software that you use today came during that era, the early 2010s. So long story short, venture funding was, again, just that small group of VCs that came into those companies. The fact that they were betting on a young founder, and that was, the only other data point they had for that was Zuckerberg. And so they thought there was that dynamic coming into it. So obviously the perspective on these types of things have changed a lot. since then. I mean, we've gone through, 3 more cycles since 2010, right? And you have 2018, you have 2021, you have now, right? So you have 4 cycles. The view on companies and the ones that are funded today, very, very different than back then.
I want to dive a little deeper into that. So for a little bit of context for people watching and listening, this is year 2010 when Brian launched this company. And I want to understand from the mindset of the brand, like how can I plug and play this reward program into the app, and how did you guys make sure like it was more targeted towards the right consumer?
Yeah, so the way we did it was through the type of app you were using. For the longest time, it was all about the individual. It was always about okay, we're targeting you by the fact that you are Manav, you are living in a certain place, and you are of this age group, and you like these things. For us, it was like the moment mattered more than the person. So let's say you were using a fitness app. The fact that you're in a fitness app and you're working out, if you just ate lunch, it doesn't matter if I'm giving you a completely free burger from McDonald's, because you're not hungry anymore. So we realized that timing mattered a ton. And then also in the app, when you were finishing a level in a game or finishing a workout, then you're receptive to messaging. You could be in the middle of a workout and be in the middle of playing a game, and you could show any ad. I could even show you a free, again, like I said, it could be a free dinner, and people wouldn't care, because it matters when you're actually interacting with the brand and in that flow that you're in, that sequence that you're in with the apps they're using.
Let's talk about the cycles. I wanted to double click on the cycles because it's good to know the past, predict the future. So 2008 iPhone comes and the mobile app bubble happened, but not the bubble, but it was like a thing that was heavily invested into. Then we have Web3. And now we're seeing AI. And I think what I predict the next thing would be like humanoid robots. So how do you predict like the next wave? And are you like involved in AI? Are you curious about AI agents? Like, are you funding those? Are you investing in those? Or do you feel like every company is just a GPT wrapper? Like, how do you think about this wave that's going on right now?
Yeah, so you kind of skipped over a couple more vectors of growth, which I know we don't have enough time to talk about them. But obviously there was, like you said, there was .com, there was mobile apps, there was the sharing economy, if you recall, with the Ubers, the Lyfts, the Airbnbs. And yeah, exactly. AI wave as well. Back then too, it was like some of these chat bots, things started to come out from there. Then you had Web3, right? You had crypto and NFTs and that wave. So a bunch of different, these hype cycles, basically. I'm not speaking of all of them in sequence, but you get what I mean. And then AI, the way I like to remind folks, and just like I said, there was a mini AI boom before. AI has been a boom multiple times. Like, it's not like this is the first time people are like, oh my God, AI is amazing. And I think the thing that finally brought AI to the hype level that it is today is ChatGPT, because there was something that your mom could use and understand, and it was actually intelligent enough to get us there. But I have to remind people, it was only not so long ago that you could barely ask Siri for the weather, and it can't even perform. And Siri, even today with Apple Intelligence, is still a trash product. So it's like, there's still ways to go in terms of ChatGPT, Perplexity, Anthropic, all these hyped up companies today.
Okay, so 3 things that I'm seeing right now is, one is AI and AI agents are making the companies leaner, more and more leaner. Number 2 is we're seeing the higher education like Harvard MBAs not being able to find a job. And number 3, we're seeing like entrepreneurs being more confused about what to work on, because I feel like every idea has already been done before and people are more and more confused. So as an investor, like, what do you look to fund? What basically like catches your attention in a second when you're like, oh my God, this is what I want to fund, this is what I'm excited about, this is gonna be like massive?
Yeah, so the 3 things you mentioned before, just kind of like a collection of things that you've observed that are important to you that I think is helpful and kind of your heuristic of explaining the world. Like, MBAs are finding it hard to get a job, and ideas are dime a dozen, and everything's been done before. But it's not like that was the same sentiment 10 years ago, 15 years ago as well, right? Like, you come up with an idea, every VC is like, well, can't Google just build this, or they've already built this, or whatever. It was always the same. And then, 10 years ago, MBAs had problems problems getting jobs too because of the internet. I mean, you kind of, MBAs will always have problems finding jobs, frankly, because it's the wrong way to go, to be honest. Like, if you need to go find a adult babysitting situation, then an MBA is a great place to go. But if you want to find a job, MBA is not the way to go. You want to find a job, you should make your own job. And that's why being a founder is great. Or at least finding companies with gaps and actually practically going in there and solving a problem than just generally solving your own problem, which was you didn't know what you were going to do with your life in the first place.
I do want to talk about failure as well. What was a failure that set you up for later success, but it felt like a failure in that moment? It could be some story from your company, or it could be something from your personal life. But I feel like it would people will relate with hearing about your failures as well, not only your successes.
I think every founder has these crazy moments. Like, you know, at Kiip, we had multiple near-death experiences where we were months away from running out of money. You know, we had lawsuits. I mean, we have a lot of things happen that, you know, I can only tell you nothing is ever as terrible as it seems and nothing is ever as good as it seems. And that's the lesson walking away from that in the moment, you're always going to make a big deal out of it because you care.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is like, be as stoic as Brian. And for people like watching, where can they go find you? I know you're on LinkedIn, you have your own website. Can you please guide people in the right direction on how to find you?
It's easy. There's brianwong.co. You can apply for the program for the next stage through there. You can reach out to me through there, just brianwong.co. Not .com. .com is another Brian Wong. So just, but he's cool too. I do know the guy, but Brian Wong, he's going to give me his domain one day. Anyway.
Thank you everyone for watching. That's another episode of Emerging Founders. And Brian, thank you for coming on the show. I've had a lot of fun talking to you.